Hey, it's Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com. And it's Thursday, it's October 25th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And this is going to wrap up our week. No chart lessons on Fridays. Another very volatile day, just very similar to yesterday. We took a little bit of, well, I'd say a little bit. We took a portion, I guess you should say, of the sell off back yesterday. But then by the end of the day, we gave most of it back again. And we closed. We still closed up a little bit today, but it was definitely off what we've been doing. But there was a clear two-tiered channel working up here. It was pretty, you could find this pretty clearly off, once we made this low right here and you drag it up, you wouldn't get it really confirmed until we started bouncing up here. And at that point, you're pretty clear that, hey, it's two-tiered channel working up. You still really need your shorter term stuff in here. And one other thing to note is that uh, there was a little bit of a clue that we may go higher up here at the top, and one of them was first we overshot it, but notice how we're making higher lows here and we start working higher again. Notice how we got this low and then this one's higher. We're not getting back to that midline. We've already overshot it. uh, Once we start pushing up here and push through again, there's a good chance we're probably going an equal distance. So just find your equal distance of your previous line. And that was right in that location, right in there. And and if you kept going, I'd go ahead and get the equal distance of the whole thing. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. I showed you the same type of deal. Uh, Normally this won't happen a lot, but as volatile as this market is, it's happening quite frequently. So, and notice when we came back, where does it seem to have finally found some support right off that original trend line? So, anyway, let's back out. We'll talk about the trades and we'll wrap up the week. Again, there's a good many trades here today. Not anything like we did. Really, most of your trades today should be buying, but you didn't get really any a lot. You just didn't get a lot of good setups to buy. And as if you look, just about the whole day is mostly shorts. When generally you'd want to be buying, but the problem is we were just bouncing around up here, selling off real quickly, trying to go lower. But in the end, it just keeps pushing higher. So that's kind of a unique situation to today that might have tripped up a lot of people. I mean, you still could buy in here, but there just aren't a lot of good setups. And what really scared me was up until right about, actually when we made this higher low here, right about there, you had to be thinking prices were going to turn and go back down, at least to the midpoint, maybe down here. And so that's the reason there's mostly shorts and you don't see much buying in here because you're not buying. I mean, there's no buys in here at the key entry points. So it's a little bit unique. So let me back out just to, again, to show you that. You can see that up here you would be expecting, we just come off the top and notice we came off the top and where'd it go back down here, but you didn't really get a buying opportunity even though it did bounce off the key entry point. And then we overshoot it, and so you're thinking we're probably headed back down here. And when we made this higher low right here, that's when you had to say, hey, if we go higher again, this is probably a midline, or at least there's probably going to be another equal distance move. And so just keep that in mind. Study that till that makes sense to you if you don't see it. But that's unique to today because normally you would be looking for shorts here back to the midline and you'd be looking to buy, but it doesn't get back to the midline. It doesn't get back to a key entry point. And you don't want to be going long into this until we knew for sure we were going higher, and right in here, that was here. And that really took us into the 2 o'clock hour. So definitely a very unique day. But anyway, actually, let me back out where we can see it a little better. We'll go through the trades. And because there's a few of them, again, I'll probably work through them a little quicker than normal. But when I came in, let me move over here. You can see, here's your overnight low, here's your overnight high. We're trading right in the middle of that when I come in. So you had to be thinking, hey, we can trade this. At this point too, it's a downtrend because we're working back down. This trend had played out. But you could be saying, hey, this might be a kind of a range type day. And even once you did find this two-tiered channel, as long as it's still swinging up and down, as flat as this is, and you're getting these shorter term trends are really what you're playing. you can still trade those trends both ways. So just keep that in mind. But anyway, this was the first trade I saw a little bit after 7 o'clock hour. Notice that we're working down. You tried to go higher, and you tried to go higher. You make a double top, then you make a lower high, and it confirms that trend line, bearish bar. This is a double bottom. So first entry, second entry, that's your ideal setup. And right out of the gate, you got a quick, easy trade there. And where does it bounce? Right off the lows. It works a little lower, works its way back. It's got a little tricky right here. You can't really see it there, but that one broke higher. So generally you want to wait on a lower high. And this is a good example of why. But if, a lot of times I'd probably take that trade. I'll be honest with you. When this thing's been real volatile and weak like it is, the problem is the second entry triggered here. We weren't back to the key entry point. So then when we did get back to the key entry point, that's just a first entry. Notice the new low, first entry, and then it tries to go higher. So there's really your second entry right there. But generally, if you're not getting the second entry off the high, then you want to wait on a lower high. Well, that's not a second entry off the high. Just get that out of the way. I'm trying to line that up just so it lines up right, but I'm not going to worry about it. So if you took that one, it would have ticked one tick lower, probably run up and stopped you out, and then guess what? It goes exactly where you thought it would go. That is a frustrating trade right there, and that's what happens to you. But that's worth taking. But when it broke higher and turned back down, you probably want to get on right there, because now it's really a second entry short. And so I'd probably add it, but by that time it's also looking like a range, so you may skip that trade. I made them both green for that reason. But if you got stopped out on that one, you could have made it all back right here on this trade, because this would have caught a runner and you ride it all the way down. But notice if you just wait on the lower high, it comes in right here. Notice there's a short-term trend line. It's a little hard to see, but you get your break, and it breaks higher, and it probably traps people and turns back down. You're not back down to the low yet, so you could go short right there. And that's probably your safer trade, although generally you don't want your lower high to be that far down. So, but that's still a valid trade, and I wouldn't have a problem taking it. It's a big signal bar though, and you got to, if you're thinking, well, I got to get more profit out of it, you don't have room to get a whole lot more profit. So that may be a good reason to skip that one. But here comes your better trade. Notice you bounced off the low, first entry, you move up, you get your first convincing close outside the trend line and a second entry short. And so I like that one. It's still inside that trend line, but because it's a second entry at the key entry point, I'm a little more inclined to take that one. Your lower high comes here, which is probably your better trade, and we haven't moved so far this time. That's a really good trade. And then of course now you got your break, two legs down, you made a new low, and it reverses. You don't get a failed second entry short here, but look how that rockets through the EMA, pulls back to the EMA, gives you a nice bullish bar. It actually broke lower, turned, and went out the upper side. Just go long right there. In that one trade, you could have ridden that all the way back to the upper side. Great setup right there. I would have liked it better if it would have broke lower there, and this would have been a true second entry short, but it doesn't matter. It still looks just like a reversal pattern when you're expecting one after this is played out. And look at it go. It comes back to the trend line yet again here, and so you might consider this one. There is enough room there, but it's a first entry. You really could still look at that like two legs back. So that one's a possibility. And again, like it has been the last few days, there will still be other trades here that are possibilities. If you're not sure and you want to send me a picture of it and ask me, I'll be glad to tell you what I think about it. That one's a little risky, but hey, you know how these things have been taken off, and this is a spike in channel, and that's right off that key entry point, although it's not really confirmed. That's just like your first two swings. I actually took it off these highs and drug it down. This is probably a little bit higher here. So if you did that, you could probably find it here. You actually come back to it again. Uh, these are fairly bullish bars, but they're kind of going sideways, stacked up, matching highs. There's really a lot of resistance right there, so I'm not crazy about it. Would have worked, runs up. Um, you pull back, you make a lower high right here. I like this trade, to be honest, but that's the first break of this trend channel. And there's no, you may get two legs. So when it goes back higher here, you may be going to get a retest. So I don't like taking that one or the failed second entry long. But when it comes back here and gives you a second entry and a little failed break higher, you might as well take this trade. Maybe we're headed back down to the midline. We're not going to get a retest. It's because the bigger channel, and you might could say this is tighter like this, and so you may say, hey, there's an overshoot here. And but anyway, that ends up being a nice trade. There's a lower high here, but now we've already got a break in new low, so I'm going to probably stay clear of those. This one's a possibility, just because there's still a good bit of room back to the midline here. There's not very much room here at all, so I'm definitely not going to take that one. But this one is a possibility. You do still have a 2-bar matching low, though, so you could argue for maybe to be green. It is a lower high. It's fairly bearish. It's not real bearish, or I shouldn't say that it's not real. I should say it's not a perfect bearish bar. It's bearish, but it's not a perfect bar. Then we bounce off the midline. You push through the EMA. You pull back. That's a relatively small bar. We're coming off the EMA. It's time for a reversal. It's off this trend line, off the EMA. You may take that one. You actually get another pullback here. You never really get a failed second entry long. And this one actually breaks lower below that bearish bar and turns up. So you may go long right there on that one. You still got room to get out, and that's probably where it's headed. We just came out the midline, so we're probably headed back up here. Of course, you had your break outside or close outside, new high, double top, but you don't really get a setup bar. It's just a bunch of bars stacking up, not super bearish or anything. And then it bounces again. That one's really tempting. And it would have worked. You get a lower high here, but now you've got all those stacked up. I'd probably wait on a failed second entry long, which comes here. But this is really looking like a trading range now, so that scares me. And then, of course, you get another bar here, right off that trend line. But look how flat that EMA is. Look how we're going up and down. You got a clear set of lows, clear set of highs. Not much room right there. And then finally you break higher and get a big bearish bar, and you got enough room to get out if you're going to take a trade, and you're looking for prices to come back down here. So that was a good setup, and you wouldn't have got a runner on this one most likely, because it comes back right here. But you get a lower high right there, and look how bearish that is, and you would have caught a runner on this one, and I probably would have, when it bounced off that midline, I probably would have looked to exit. But again, it's a little, we do have a close outside and a move to a new low. So we could get a reversal, but I'm just really concerned that we might be headed down here. So you just don't really get a good setup here. You're all the way back up here before you really get a correction that breaks lower. So that your failed second entry short's way up here, and you don't want to be going long up here, and I don't want to be going short yet. So you don't finally get a lower high till here. And so at this point, this is looking, and it's right off a possible trend line. So this looks like a failed second, or a lower high, I'm sorry. Big bearish bar, I'd probably take that one. Another nice trade, and then it shoots back up again. You don't have anything really to confirm this trend line yet. So I don't think you want to go short there. You do get your lower high here, and look how it finally turns down off that upper trend channel line. Now you would think we're probably headed to the lows, so I like going short there. It's good for a nice little trade here, but again, it bounces higher, and we're just working up. But I'm not crazy about going long anywhere in here, because we should be going lower, and there's no real reason to think we're going to go much higher. So I just skip all that and you actually don't get a double top or a lower idle right here. That's not the best signal bar either, but it is, everything is holding in there. You do have your close outside new high, then lower high, and that's bearish, just not perfect. So you probably could take that one. You could argue for that one to maybe be green. But this whole time, price actions, you probably got to be thinking, because that's what's usually going to happen, is we're headed back down eventually, and it's just taking a little while to reverse. But once again, it makes a higher low, and that's when it shoots back through here and then makes another higher low, then you got to be thinking long. And again, I just don't see any reason to be getting long in here, because we should be going lower, and you don't want to be getting long into this at that time. This still looks like the upper trend channel line, and looks like we're just struggling to close. But we do have a higher low here, and we're making a higher high. If we get another higher low, then we want to consider maybe getting long, that maybe this is not maybe this is a midline. So I don't like going long there, and I don't like going short here either. We bounce here with a second entry, not a very good signal bar. And you finally get a failed second entry short right here. So when it broke higher there, you could go long. And that turns out to be a great trade. And draw your equal distance line. And as long as it's headed that way, I'd probably ride it. And you might consider going long right here. That's your higher low. It's the first one. It's a little small bar. You're going long right into the highs. But at the very least, if we're going to get a measured move, I'd measure that and bring this up here. That puts you to up here, but if we're going that far, we may make that measured move. So you might take that trade, just because it's small and low risk, and this thing has been very volatile. You don't get many opportunities like that, so you may take that trade. And I'm not going to take any of these, and this just takes you into 2 o'clock. There is a lower high right here off that measured move, but this thing is really starting to accelerate now. I think even though that worked, it's not a good place to be thinking short yet, because this might be, we may get the equal distance on the whole thing and not just half of it. So you just have to be careful. And that takes you in the 2 o'clock hour. So I just don't see anything there I'd really want to take. So again, there it is. And this is somewhat of a spike in a channel right here, and with another acceleration. So it's just kind of a very different day, but it's not really, like I said, once you make these higher lows, it's pretty obvious we're still making higher highs and higher lows here, and you had to kind of switch gears, and you don't really get a good opportunity till here. But all the same, I wouldn't be looking for shorts anymore up through here. And if you couldn't see the bigger picture, I'd say you wouldn't be taking shorts here. But until you saw the bigger picture with these higher lows here, these 2 higher lows and then another one, you had to still be thinking we were going down. So that's the reason there's not many buys in here. So I hope that's clear. That makes sense to people. It's clear. But if it doesn't, study it a little bit until it does make sense, and it'll probably come to you. But anyway, it was another good trading day. It's been a great trading week, and we're done for this week. We won't be back till Monday. So I hope you have a great trading day tomorrow and close out the week on a good note. But I'm going to wrap it up today, and I'll see you Monday. But I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.